The aluminum specialty 60 years ago, they were quite innovative. They were trying all different things.
Over 100 different styles and colors and sizes of trees.
Each tree every branch is individual.
You have the straight needle.
Longer needle branches.
You have the fountain.
Shorter branches.
Which some people call pom-poms.
Puffy pom-pom.
There's a fan style.
And then you have the swirl.
Curly.
True taper style.
And the frosty needle is much more of a textured aluminum that almost makes the aluminum look like it has some frost on it.
It just went on and on, but then I found they came not only in pink and silver, but gold and green, and then silver with little blue tips. And sometimes, if you're very fortunate, you'll get to see a green and blue one or a burgundy and blue one. And so these became kind of a little new collection obsession.
With the Evergleam trees, it's a nostalgia thing for Manitowoc and the area, and that's what kind of drew me to them. My wife and I have had real trees. Then we eventually graduated to an artificial tree, and I would usually have an artificial tree, and when I started collecting the aluminum trees, we'd put a couple of them up also. So some years we would have 3 or 4 trees set up in the house. And now the last few years, it's just been the aluminum trees that we put up. My involvement with the Evergleam trees here in Manitowoc, which led up to my display here of my trees, was being associated with a couple of people here in town that also have Evergleam trees, and I was asked to maybe sometime put some up on display, which occurred this fall that I got asked again, and I agreed to do that, and so I was privileged to bring 5 of my trees down here and set up. And my wife and I actually had the privilege of going on the trolley tour, and it's a tour put on for people to go right around the city and look at all the Evergleam trees that are on display.
The pink tree was only made every 10,000 trees, so it's very rare. If you get a 2-foot pink tree, you're probably paid anywhere $8, $9, up to $1,000. A 7-foot tree just went for $3,000 on eBay about a year ago. All right, before and after on your left, they've moved from the corner of 8th and Franklin. They've got a 7-foot straight needle 100-branch tree. They were originally going to have that 10-foot wonder in the middle of the library, but they didn't have a high enough ceiling in that window.
It represents a warmer, simpler time when my grandmother would make her chocolate chip cookies and put that tree up with the red balls in her living room window, and we would all get together and enjoy the holidays. And so I always loved kind of the space age retro fun that my grandmother had in her living room. And she was an old Irish woman. It was really kind of an odd thing for us to see. But my involvement with the Evergleam really became more profound when my husband moved me out to Cleveland, Wisconsin, a farm not far from an antique mall. And in that antique mall was a 2-foot pink aluminum tree that I very desperately wanted to purchase. And no matter what I offered, this gentleman said, "No, it's not for sale, it's not for sale." I said, "Well, who made such a thing?" And he told me Aluminum Specialty had made the tree. And I said, "They made pink? I thought everything was silver." I never knew that something beyond silver was even a possibility. So I became obsessed with the pink tree. And at the early part of this century, in 2000, late 90s, I had an eBay account. I was one of the first ones to have an eBay account. So I went shopping, looking for a pink tree, and they were terribly expensive. I couldn't afford one. They were $1,800 for a pink tree, and so I started saving up. I'm a mother of 3 children, getting my grad degree, and I saved a little bit here, a little bit there, until one day I had $800. And to the computer I went, and there was an 8-foot-tall pink aluminum Evergleam. And it had to be an Evergleam because it's from Manitowoc. I'm from Manitowoc. Made sense. So I watched the tree, and I watched it, and I watched it until the last day came, 5 minutes left of the auction. And it was $800. Nobody had bid on this tree. So I thought, what the heck? That's what I've got in the account. I'll bid $800. And of course, I got the spinning wheel of death. And it spun and it spun and it spun. And it took forever. 2 minutes seemed like 20 years until finally the screen lit up and said, you have won.
Manitowoc is my hometown. Even though I haven't lived here since 69, it's still my hometown. It's where I grew up. My name is Steve Sear. My inventory number is over 200, and that's just for Evergleam because I collect Miro as well. And I collect modern coatings because that was part of the birth. This goes back to probably 2008, maybe, somewhere plus minus in there. We're here for a few days. We start bouncing around after Christmas dinner and all that business. And one of the things we would, especially me and my daughter, would be we'd go downtown and we noticed that there were these aluminum trees in the window at Washington Street Antique Mall. I didn't know a lot about any of this stuff, trees, other than I knew that they came from here. They were born here. I was aware that the State Historical Society on the square in Madison was doing an Evergleam show, but they do it about every 3 years. So I'd see this show in Madison about Manitowoc's aluminum trees, which in reality is a wonderful thing, that the State Historical Society sees value and enjoys them. But I also said to myself, we should have a show in Manitowoc where these trees were born. I would set aside a little time and walk up and down A Street. And I'd go into storefronts and I'd talk to whoever was manning the store. Kind of share my idea about displaying trees. And what we could do. We'd do it at Christmas time, and it could be a traffic builder for the stores downtown. And just to get feedback, what they thought about it. And as well as hoping that somebody would say, yeah, let's go. Well, that didn't quite happen. I spent 2 or 3 years walking up and down the street. I finally ran across one store owner that pointed across the street and said, you've got to go talk to her. You've got to go talk to Kathy.
So in 2015, Steve, who we affectionately call the Tree Guy, came into my business, and I was the Downtown Association president at that time. We were looking for something to do during the holiday season, and he had a great idea of putting his collection of aluminum trees in all of the windows. At that time, I really didn't know much about it. I guess you would call me an aluminum tree virgin because I'd heard of them, but really didn't know much about them. And I thought, well, why would all the windows want to have the same tree? But he thought it was a great idea. He was willing to do the work, so we went ahead and we talked to all the businesses. And over 30 businesses were on board. So we went ahead with the first Evergleams on 8th.
If you're looking for trees, you got to train your eye to look at the pictures, because that's what you have to base your decision on, the pictures. I hardly ever buy a tree that doesn't come with the original box, because that's further confirmation, especially in the beginning. How do I know that's an Evergleam? Well, the box, I don't know. It's a different story now. I've seen enough of them. You just show me and I can tell you if it is or it isn't. But in the earlier days, the box was an additional confirmation and important.
I guess I would never buy a tree unless it had the original box. It doesn't even have to be in good condition. Some of mine are actually pretty poor, and they've been box tape is holding them together. But having the original box definitely adds to the value of the tree.
And then, hopefully they'll show you a picture of the trunk, and you can see the condition of the trunk and the paper that's on the trunk. If it's still there, if it's gone and you just have a wood trunk.
That foil gets worn and torn and stuff like that. Some people are able to refoil them. Some people just paint them silver. But if they have the original foil on, that would be the best. If all the branches do not have a lot of Scotch tape on them.
With time and wear, some of these branches get little bends in them.
I use the word tuning. And that's to go through the tree branch by branch, kind of straightening it out.
And all you have to do is very gently rub that aluminum back into place, and you'll have a nice straight twig again.
They're very delicate to put together and take down. Some people recommend wearing gloves.
All of these have different angles, so you just kind of fit the base in, and then you kind of feel where the angle is.
I will spend over $100 on that pink tree, that 7-foot 100 branch, because each branch takes me over an hour to straighten out. But the tree is going to be beautiful when I'm done with it.
I've always wanted a colored evergleam tree, but I've never found one at the right pricing.
When you look at an evergreen tree, you'll know it's an early evergreen tree based on the base. This has got 3 metal pieces that each screw in separately, and this is a gold straight needle. Most colored trees were straight needle trees. Came in gold, green, and pink. This is a 4-foot gold.
My ultimate goal is to get a pink evergleam tree.
I paid $1,800 for that 7-foot pink 5 years ago, in the condition that it was in. Now the trunk was perfect. Didn't have to worry about the covering on the trunk, which is very important, especially with the pink, because you can't find that pink aluminum. If it's all messed up, that's the best that tree's ever going to be. So it's always important with colored trees for me to see the trunk and know that it's in halfway decent shape.
My wife's favorite color is pink, so she would love one. But nowadays they're very few out there, and when they are priced outrageously high.
When I'm done with that pink tree, I probably wouldn't sell it for $3,000, because partially because of all the hours I've spent with it, and the fact that it's a moving target.
I left before the song. How does the song go?
We are the girls of the specialty. We specialize in Christmas trees. We can make them, we can wind them, we can tape them, we can bind them. We will work all through the night to make your Christmas gay and bright. We are the girls of the specialty. We make Christmas trees. But they made that up because at 2 o'clock in the morning, they wanted to go to sleep. And so they sang the song to keep them awake, because you work from 11 to 7.
A bunch of young ladies who in the 60s probably can only be a clerk or a secretary or work in a store. This gave them a factory job that kind of paid them a good wage, and they were able to help their families purchase homes, go to college. Some of the high school girls were able to go on to school. I mean, it gave them a whole new career because there was 2 family incomes now.
And I really feel that it's a vital part of what made Manitowoc. It gave middle-class people a good paying job, and it gave them the homes and the livelihood that kept them here and happy. So we celebrate that.
That was a huge amount of work. I mean, more than you think. And it still is. It's still a lot of work. But that's okay, because no matter who's collecting what you want to do is you want to show others. Want to share your enjoyment with other people, and that's what Evergleams on 8th is kind of does.
I think it helps the new generation of Manitowoc kids understand that Manitowoc had a vital role in the country. I mean, aluminum specialty, the Evergleam tree is still the Taj Mahal of aluminum trees, and if you really want the finest tree, you'll buy an Evergleam. So I will continue to seek Evergleam trees, and I continue to collect them because they look so nice when they're lit up, and they give a warm, wonderful glow to the holiday season, and it represents a fun, simple time when family was number one, and just enjoying the laughter and the good times and marveling at a sparkling tree in a corner of my grandmother's living room. It just, brings good times to the front.